Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we're going to take a look at Venus's upcoming opposition to Neptune. Now, Venus is in the sign of Virgo right now, in its fall, a little bit of a challenging position for Venus from the essential dignity standpoint, and it is heading into an opposition with Neptune by the weekend. So we are going to look at this earlier in the week now as a way of sort of prepping ourselves for what's coming over the weekend. So that is our goal for today. But before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Share a few comments in the comments section throughout the week. It really helps the channel to grow. You can always find a transcript of my daily talks on the website, nightlightastrology.com. I'm really excited because my new class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystics Fall Enrollment Period, is upon us. I'm going to take you over there right now. Visit the courses page, go into the first year course, scroll down to learn more about it. It's 30 classes on the year. We start November 12th. We meet on Saturdays. They are all recorded, so you don't have to be there live if you don't want to. You can follow along at your own pace. Everything's downloadable. You have lifetime access to all the material. You can hear what some of the students have said about it with that Q&A video we have there. 30 courses on the year. They're 2 to 3 hours each on Saturdays. We also have 12 guest teachers. We have a group forum discussion staffed by tutors, interactive study sessions with our tutoring staff in between our major units. You can talk to me throughout the year anytime you want about the course and questions you have about it. Tons of bonus material. It's a great way to learn Hellenistic astrology, learn how to read birth charts. A lot of the program toward the end is dedicated to having live clients come into the classroom. So I encourage you to check it out. If you have any questions, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. You can also click on the early bird payment to save $500 off when you're registering. You can take a payment plan and stretch it out over 12 months. Lots of people do that. It's a handy way of making it more accessible. And then for people who, for whatever reason, it's out of the price point, it's out of your price point for your budget, you're on a tight budget, maybe you're on disability, or maybe you are only working part-time, or you're a single parent, or you're on retirement, or whatever the case might be, please take advantage of the need-based tuition if it could help you. Just apply now, tell us your situation. We'll be glad to help you out with that. There are a limited number of those available, and we are trying to make sure that we get those taken care of before the end of class to avoid a huge rush in the last week of those contracts, because it takes us a little while to process that. So if you want to get into the need-based tuition, take advantage of it early. We really appreciate it. Okay, well, that being said, let's turn our attention now to the real-time clock, and we're going to look at the transit coming up over the weekend. Now, this transit technically perfects, let's see here. Where am I? Aha, here we go. So we're looking at the perfection of Venus in Virgo opposing Neptune in Pisces. Now that transit is coming in, you can see right here, there's Neptune opposing, or excuse me, Venus opposing Neptune. This is the 23rd, but it really passes through by this Friday into Saturday, the 23rd into the 24th of September. Now you will be feeling this all week. Here we are right about, Wednesday, the 21st, Thursday, the 22nd. It's coming within that 3-degree engagement range that makes it quite intense. It's almost the fall, by this week we're going through the fall equinox. I'm recording this just prior to the fall equinox. And so it's a pretty big moment for us right now in terms of a transitional space. Mercury's about to retrograde back into Virgo. It will also conjoin Venus in Virgo after Venus goes through the opposition to Neptune. Remember, Venus and Mercury have been in a mutual reception with one another. So anyway, as the transit goes on, it's exciting because we also have a new moon coming through. So the new moon comes through over the weekend. By early next week, you'll see that coming through. So it's a pretty big transitional moment, and it seems to be right in the middle of it. You've got Venus opposing Neptune. So that's what we're going to talk about today and try to get a real clear sense of what to watch for. I've got 5 themes that I want to talk about, an I Ching reading that I did alongside of these 5 themes that will inform some of the, insights I have to share about this transit as we go along. So number 1, when you have Venus opposite Neptune, and remember, you have a little bit of a debilitated Venus. Venus is not the most comfortable in Mercury's sign. You're pitting sort of the qualities of the mental, rational, philosophical, communicative, and nervous energies of Mercury with the sensual, aesthetic dimension of Venus. So they're, a little bit of an odd couple, but they can have, there's potential for synthesis with any archetypal combination. So, but just remember that that's a little bit of a Venus that's been struggling a little bit. Okay. Number one would be I'm in love with the impossible. When you take that Venus in earthy Virgo, a sign for Venus that can start overthinking things, especially overthinking things in relation to love, beauty, appearance, aesthetics, sensuality, pleasure, desire, and the rational component comes in. And for example, we can start thinking, well, what I want or what I love is impractical, and that can be amplified by the fact that Venus is now opposing Neptune, which can present itself as the ideal, or it can kind of cast like a glitter over the top of Venus in Virgo and say what you desire is impossible and impractical, and fill you with a deep sense of sorrow or sadness that what I want or what I desire is impossible or impractical. Now, what's interesting about this is that when a planet is in its fall, it has nowhere to go but up. The cycle of exaltation and fall in the planetary dignity scheme refers to great peaks of fortune and great valleys of fortune, but they move in circles and cycles. So, in a sense, a planet exalted, at times it's like it rides high, but it can get more discouraged when things go low. Similarly, when a planet is down low, sure, it can face adversity and misfortune, but it has really nowhere to go but up. And so Venus opposite Neptune may also be something like the sense of hope returning from a bleak place, a bleak or barren place, a place that has been shackled by practicality or by criticism or doubt or by worry or a sense of high stress, high responsibility, high stakes. And suddenly Neptune comes in and says, you know what? You can let go of some of that. Let's have some grace. Let's have some ease and healing. And because of that, suddenly your eyes start to lift up and you have nowhere to go but up. And so it's possible that this transit comes through and begins the process of some kind of turnaround. Now, the reason that I would argue in favor of this kind of a turnaround is that Venus in Virgo is also starting to move into a conjunction with its host, Mercury, exalted in Virgo. And then Venus immediately moves into the sign of its own rulership in Libra. So things are about to start looking up significantly for the Venus dimension of life, or Venusian things in your chart, or wherever you're seeing Venus pop up in your life right now. We're facing a turning point. So from this kind of low point of Venus in her fall, opposite Neptune, maybe that starts to come in as grace, healing, forgiveness, a gentle letting go, like a gentle rain starting to fall on the dry earth, starts to pick things up and says, don't worry, let go of your anxieties or judgments or criticism or perfectionism, and let's see where things can go from here. So I'm in love with the impossible could be a deep feeling of Neptune opposing Venus in Virgo and feeling like things are flawed, and there's the thing I long for is an impossible, achy kind of romantic idealism, and that, which is in its own right, is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with feeling that way. Some of the best poets and music and literature has come from that very space of longing. And romantic longing is the part of the journey of life. It's what takes us to all the different places that we need to go, from marriage and children, and because there's something in us that feels like it's not whole, so we go on creating. And so this could be a very creative transit. That love of the impossible is not a bad thing at all. This could be the spark of romantic inspiration that we need, the imagination flowing out through achy, through kind of an achiness. So that's a good achiness, maybe. But also the idea that if I'm down low, maybe I'm starting to be lifted up by hope, by imagination and inspiration. Number two, the beloved's blemish. When Venus opposes Neptune, it's easy when Venus and Neptune get together in a conjunction, any Venus-Neptune combination, two extremes are possible. One is to cast the light of God onto someone or something that we're in love with. So they become colored by the numinosity of Neptune, this the sense of God as the beloved, just casting beautiful lights over the top of something. And on the other hand, there's the feeling that something is plain or blemished, and or that there's a scar or a stain on something. Like you think of Venus in her fall opposite Neptune, and you think of like spilling like water damage to a beautiful table or something like that. Or like I don't know if a table may look, the water damage to your basement, and your basement happens to be the place you love to hang out. It's decorated beautifully, but so if you think about Venus opposite Neptune, you can either think about the beloved carrying whoever the let's call it the divine, bringing and casting lights and prisms and rainbows all over something that you're in love with or that you want or desire. And it feels like that's God, On the other hand, the very same energy in reverse could be that something that you love suddenly has a blemish. It's human, it's fallen, it's stained, it's not perfect, it's not ideal, it's fallen short of some kind of heavenly beauty. And that's okay too. The soul loves things that are blemished. It loves things that are tarnished. I think of my daughters who they go on playing with their toys even after their toys are missing parts and they're all mangled looking, and it becomes part of the story of that toy in their imagination. And we're very similar. We like broken things. The soul we develop character in great part through our brokenness, not through our wholeness. Although we're pining all the time about wholeness, but we need blemishes. And so much in life depends upon people seeing us carry on with humor and dignity and curiosity and imagination in the midst of having blemishes. Like, isn't it true that you're drawn to people who are a little bit mangled, so to speak, in their character, who have interesting warts, and at the same time carry them with a sense of lightness? So the beloved's blemish is also not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. And it's part of life. It's part of what makes life soulful. But if you see that blemish and you're driven crazy by it, you want to pick it apart and get rid of it. Well, that can be, that's something that may never go away. It may drive you crazy, which is, sometimes why you'll see this kind of a transit happening when, maybe a young person develops an eating disorder. It's like they can't feel good about the blemishes. There's not room for them to exist. It's good, like from our girls are little, and we try to make fun of our little pudgy spots and our toots. You know what I mean? Okay, well, number 3, an impractical romance. This thing that I'm in love with, that I want to do or I'm being drawn to, is impractical somehow. It's like I have to hold back from doing or pursuing what I want because some voice is telling me this is impractical. Now, that could have some resonance with one of the earlier points, which is the idea that I'm in love with the impossible. But this impractical romance would play out more so in the sense of logistics not working out, like you're trying to get something worked out, but you're just flooded. Like, here's a good example. Like, let's say I'm trying to clean, and my girls keep playing with me. They're like, let's play. And I'm like, no, I've got to clean the basement today. I've got to organize the shelves. This was something I had to get done. But then, it's like, and I might start to feel like they're a distraction. You and your desire to play and imagine and fantasize and let go of structure, and that's a distraction. That's impractical. You're trying to take me somewhere I don't want to go. But you know what? Sometimes we have to set boundaries and not let ourselves get overwhelmed. Just get those shelves organized. And other times, and you all know how this goes, you need to set everything down and lose yourself. You need to go play and be like a child and let go and let the impractical flood its way into your life. So those are tensions that sometimes you're going to feel with Venus in an earth sign like Virgo opposite Neptune in Pisces. And just watch for that this week and watch how you're holding the tension of those demands on your psyche. Number 4, what is purity? This is a question that could come up. Venus and Virgo ask this question a lot. Venus and Virgo, I remember we had an interior designer that did our yoga studio, and she one time said to me, I'm really good at making things beautiful. I'm really have a hard time at enjoying things that are beautiful. And I thought that was really an interesting statement for a Venus and Virgo who had beautiful design talent, but also had more of a nervous mental temperament and had a hard time relaxing. And she just when, and I kind of talked to her a little bit more about it, and she said, well, it's like, I just worry that if I let go to enjoy, to indulge myself, that I'll be missing something or shirking a responsibility or something like that. And the thing is that Venus in the sign of Virgo in particular can struggle with the dichotomy between, like, making things agreeable and pure and good, all of which have a Venusian dimension, right? They're all sort of like, I know Mercury intellectually what the right thing is, and what is beautiful and good and fair and balanced and harmonious, and yet there's something about the knowing that blocks the experiencing. There's something about the mental part of it that can get in the way of the actual sensual part of it. So sometimes, as a result of that tension, Venus in Virgo sits there and spins its wheels on, like, how much can I enjoy, or what is pure, or what is good, or how much can I, like, there's a nervousness around just letting the body enjoy what it enjoys, letting the sensual dimension just be what it is. And so that back and forth, the inner question can constellate what is pure, and it can get quite big and cosmic and blown up. And we can see extremes, like with an opposite Neptune, like letting go and sliding into complete, giving myself complete permission to, like, take a Valium and space out on the couch. I'm thinking of that because I just had LASIK surgery done. You can see my bloody eye. And I had to take a Valium afterwards to help me sleep. So I was just remembering, like, I hadn't, taken a drug in a very, very long time. So I was like, oh God, I remember, when I was in my early 20s, I struggled with some addiction. So I was like, it was very weird to, like, have that back in my system. And I just thought, oh yeah, that's interesting. This is so Neptunian. And the funny thing about it was that Mercury was, like, you remember we talked about this recently, Mercury was in the Antisha with Neptune. So I was like, oh, it's like kind of sleepy, vast space. But one thing I noticed was that, like, oh, it's very Neptunian in the sense that my analytical mind just doesn't have the space to operate when, after taking the Valium, and I fell asleep, obviously. The point is that you could be experiencing a natural cosmic Valium, I guess. Don't go take drugs, kids. But you could be experiencing something like that and being like, oh my God, I can't let go. I shouldn't let go. This isn't pure. This isn't good. This isn't right. And sometimes you just have to let go. And other times, if you're someone who is struggling with, maybe staying grounded, like if you struggle with alcohol or something like that, a transit like this could come along and say, what is the root of your addiction? How are you how do you seek pleasure in ways that are compulsive and taking away from something integral and whole about your body or your health or your sanity? And that could be a part of what we're asking too. But the question, what is purity? What is enjoyment? What is pleasure? What's good, or what's the right balance? What's the middle path? Those might be kind of intense questions. Sometimes you have to figure that out mentally. Sometimes there's only one way of figuring it out, which is through trial and error and experience. And number 5, the beauty of simplicity. Venus in Virgo is maybe one of the most beautiful things about Venus in Virgo is how simple, everyday things, small, granular things can become so beautiful. If we pause enough to appreciate the simple, then everyday life becomes beautiful. Sometimes, people think, like, they have a home altar, for example, and they think it has to be the most elaborate thing in the world. One of the things that we've been experimenting with has been just collecting things in nature outside and making small altars in outdoor spaces through just sacred designs of natural materials that we find. It was inspired by a book that one of my former students gave me, and I was so honored by it. It was all about building altars with simple things outside, earthy materials. So we don't need a lot to make something profoundly beautiful. As it turns out that the simplest things in nature, if you just look around, are just teeming with beauty. And so I think another thing here is the way that Neptune can inflect upon earthy Venus this sense of transcendental beauty, a rock, a stone, the grains of sand on the beach, the fallen leaves and their colors. these kinds of things can be maybe tremendously beautiful to us right now. Maybe there's a little peephole through which we can start to see infinity in the small granular elements of our life, in washing the dishes, the care that we put in. Thank you that I have this dish. It's like, it's so simple, but sometimes I feel like, Venus and Virgo on its own is naturally, it has an appreciation for earthy beauty. But then if you add in Neptune, it's like, wow, there's this whole, it turns out that all of heaven is contained in the mustard seed, that kind of thing. So I was thinking about that a lot. The I Ching hexagram that I cast was number 19, which is sometimes translated as noble calling. And one of the things that I love about this line is that when you're in pursuit of a noble ideal and higher people with resources, or people will take note of those who are aspiring toward things with a humble, sincere heart. I think it's a good time right now to be joyful and to be glad and to love what you love and to pursue what you pursue with a quiet but passionate dignity. And watch what the universe provides. Because that's the feeling to me, is that the gift that could come in right now is this Venus opposite Neptune, the planet of good fortune opposite beautiful, otherworldly, romantic Neptune. And I feel that that combination could reward us, especially when we have that simple, humble sense of what we want or what is beautiful, and what we're trying to create in our lives. And we go about it with a quiet passion. By quiet, I mean not that we hide it, but that we're careful with it. We're careful not to cast our pearl or put it out where people can mistake our passion for ego, or it's like keep it simple and humble, but also let it be filled with so much passion. We can kind of make that combination at once. To me, noble calling, that hexagram, is always about how people that carry themselves in that way are often rewarded. They're often granted privilege or benefits or aid or help, or good energy comes their way to support. So that was something else that came to my mind that was worth sharing. I hope that this has been practical and beautiful. I hope that you're having a great day, and I hope that this is something that fills you with some insights for the week ahead as this transit approaches. And remember, once more, the transit is approaching on September 24th. So it's coming in over the weekend, but you should be feeling it as the week goes on. And I would love to hear your stories. Don't forget that you can use the hashtag grabbed, or email us grabbed@nightlightastrology.com to share a story. We have a grabbed episode this week. I hope you guys will enjoy it, and keep the stories coming. I love hearing them. It's always a joy and a pleasure to share them with you guys. All right, that's what I've got. I hope you guys are having a great day. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.